all began a certain morning in spring, in a certain savings bank in a suburban community not far from where you live. While a certain young man waited in the outer office, intent only on business, and a certain young secretary proceeded with her work, oblivious of any. The problem of immediate concern was being discussed inside the office of the president, who was putting it like this.
I phoned you, Chet, because, well, while this is strictly speaking an advertising problem, I felt sure the agency would be able to help.
Of course we can. This series of TV programs explaining the backgrounds of various businesses is mighty worthwhile. As long as they've asked you to do one on savings banks, you should jump at the chance. Matter of fact, since you phoned me yesterday, I've already things rolling. That is, if you agree. First of all, we need a script for this program. And for that script, we should have someone with a new, fresh point of view.
I'll go along with that. Whom do you have in mind?
Charlie, there's a fellow outside I'd like to suggest. After his hitch in the service, he went to college. Took everything from business administration to modern art. Incidentally, he's a pretty good artist with a knack for visualizing facts and figures. I'm hoping that doing this job for us will persuade him that the advertising business is where he really belongs. I've been holding a job open for him at the agency.
Well, that's fine. Where'd you first meet this young fellow?
In a hospital, about 24 years ago. He's my son.
Oh, well, let's get him in here. Miss Kimball.
Yes, Mr. Nichols?
Will you kindly have Mr. O'Neill come in, please? And I'll need you, too.
Yes, sir. After you, Mr. O'Neill.
Charlie, this is my son, Tom. Mr. Nichols.
How are you?
How do you do, sir?
I'm glad you're going to help us out. I see you've already met my secretary, Miss Kimball. Miss Kimball, this is Mr. O'Neill.
Hello?
Mr. O'Neill will be preparing some material on savings banks for a television program. Please help him all you can.
Yes, sir.
He should see key men in every department. Please set up appointments for him. And for the moment, this project has priority.
I understand, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you, sir. Well, shall we get started?
Most efficient secretary I ever had. She has a mind like a machine. No emotions. 1 in a million.
Here are your appointments, Mr. O'Neill.
It's Tom. Oh, you left one out. May I?
I'm sorry, Mr. O'Neill, but I don't go out with customers.
Oh, well, I'm not a customer. I'm an associate. You heard what your boss said. I'm priority.
Only during office hours.
Now, look, Mary, have a heart, will you? Look what I'm up against.
Oh, so banking is dull, is it? You're sure of that?
I only said I'd do this job to please my dad. That is, until I found out you were going to help me. Now, come on, how about dinner?
It's time for your first appointment. Would you follow me, please, Mr. O'Neill?
Safety of the savings bank investments is an important point to emphasize, Mr. O'Neill. That's why during the Depression years, not a single mutual savings bank in the state failed.
I've made a note of that. And thank you very much, Mr. James.
Not at all. Good luck in your project.
Okay, so I did my homework. Now, how about that dinner?
You're busy. Here.
What are all these?
Well, that's research material I got for you from our farm. Here is a study of the effect of regular savings. Did you know that if you saved $50 a month for 10 years, you'd have $6,000 not counting interest dividends?
Right now, I'm not interested in saving money. I'd like to spend some on dinner for 2. Now, will you please have dinner with me?
No, thank you.
All right. Suppose I dig in. And tomorrow night, you and I are having dinner together. And no arguments. So long, Mary.
Miss Kimball, still no word from young O'Neill?
No, sir.
Well, you needn't wait. He'll probably be in tomorrow. You know, I'd forgotten about your vacation starting when I asked you to work with him. Miss Olson can take over. Now, you have a fine rest, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi there. I told you I'd be back early. Well, there it is.
Here's your masterpiece.
What's the matter? Don't you like it?
Would you like to know what I really think about that script?
Why, sure.
I think it's about as exciting and as dramatic as a telephone book.
What do you want, South Pacific?
No. Little imagination, a few fresh ideas. You're supposed to have studied art. Well, here was a chance to show it instead of just talking about it. All I ask is that you let me know when this masterpiece is to be shown. I'll make a point not to see it. Good night.
Mary, wait. Okay, you were right. I did give the script a brush off. It's a pretty stupid thing to do. How does a fellow go about proving he's sorry? Oh, I know. I guess he just starts all over again. The only trouble is I'll still need to get the inside story directly from someone who knows. And this time I'll be listening. Dinner? Strictly business.
Aren't you going to eat your dessert? You haven't touched a thing.
Who's hungry? Oh, Gino, would you clear this off, please?
Sure.
Thank you. That does it. Listen to this, Mary. See what you think of it. Tomorrow, from 9 to 10, more research on the historical background of the savings bank system. 10 to 11, I'll interview the superintendent of banks on the safety record of savings banks. 1 to 3, I'll talk with the depositors on what savings banks have meant to them, including school kids with school savings accounts and policyholders with savings bank life insurance. From 3 to 5, I'll interview various trustees of savings banks. 6 to 12 midnight, correlate material and prepare a charge for final presentation. Now, that's tomorrow. Now, on Thursday, we'll interview state, city, and federal officials regarding savings bank investments in state and government bonds, showing the benefits to the community and the nation. I'll talk with a builder of a housing development, a GI owner of a small home. Then I'll correlate that material and prepare additional charts. Now, on Friday...
Stop. I'm exhausted already from just listening. When you change, you really change.
You were right, Mary. We can really get a big kick out of working on this together. Hey, wait a minute, I forgot. You start your vacation tomorrow.
Don't be silly. What's a week of relaxing at a nice, cool lake compared to the fun of racing around on interviews with a fellow who's just a little bit crazy?
Then you will help.
I started this one-man earthquake. I may as well see it through.
Good. Thank you, Gino.
Thank you very much. Grazie tanto. Come again.
Hey, my list. Thank you, Gino.
You're welcome.
Hello, Chet. You're just in time. They're all set and waiting for us.
Tom and Mary?
That's right.
What have they lined up? Any idea?
You mean you're in the dark, too?
Tom said he needed an office where he and Mary could work. So they've been hard at it ever since, every day and far into the night. But what they've worked out, I've no idea.
Well, for your sake, I hope it sold your son on the advertising business.
Well, it must have sold him on something. He's worked hard enough.
We'll see.
Miss Kimball and I have prepared some material which I'd like to call the Savings Bank Story. Now, this material is for your use or anyone else who appears on your television program.
All right, sure show. You've got the ball.
Good. Right. begin with, there's history. It all began a century and a half ago with a fellow we'll call Tommy Toiler. Tommy had to work 14 hours a day at 14 different jobs to earn about $6.40 a week. But these $6.40 went a long way. Once in a while, Tommy would find something left after he had paid his bills. What to do with it? That was the problem. Now, he couldn't hide it. Someone might find it. He couldn't bury it. His dog would dig it up. So he spent it, which was fun for him, until he came home to explain what he'd done with the money. There were lots of other fellows just like Tommy who couldn't save a dime. And the good old days weren't so good when the average family couldn't save anything for a rainy day. But in 1819, a group of public-spirited citizens heard about an idea that would protect the savings of fellows like Tommy Toiler. These citizens, who were called trustees, put up their money to organize the first mutual savings bank in this country. This new kind of bank was called a mutual savings bank because it was owned by its depositors. The idea grew very fast. In 1820, there were 10 savings banks east of the Alleghenies. In 1850, there were 107. In 1865, 316. Today, there are over 500 mutual banks serving nearly 20 million depositors. By 1950, in New York State alone, of a total of 14,800,000 people, more than half had accounts in savings banks, which means an average of almost 2 accounts for every family in the state. That one word, safety, has always been the keynote of the savings bank system. The trustees who helped to found the first savings bank found themselves with a real problem. How could they safely put the depositors' money to work? Well, they had plenty of offers. Inventors were looking for cash. Land speculators hoped to get their hands on the depositors' money for investments which were far from safe. There were all kinds of crackpot schemes in those carefree days. To make a quick million or to lose your shirt. The trustees said no to all such wild speculation. Savings banks loaned the depositors' money to reliable individuals who needed money to better themselves and the community. Farmer John used his loan to buy a horse and a plow. And it wasn't long before the money he put to work produced a new house and barn. Farmer John's interest on his loan helped the savings bank to pay its depositors a share of their interest, and everybody was happy. Depositors' money was loaned to create new products and new jobs. The people's savings were invested in federal, state, and municipal bonds, as well as railroad and public utility securities, to play a productive part in the growth of our country. These investments were the bulwark of protection for the savings banks against the storms of time. Through the years, there were many storms indeed. Wars, panics, depressions. All were weathered with safety. The record of the past promises that your savings and your children's savings are safe in a mutual savings bank. Most Americans are wise enough to save. For one thing, they wish to be prepared for emergencies of one kind or another. Some people save to make dreams come true, one way or another. Others save to educate their children or to enjoy independence, security, and comfort in their old age. Other people save for vacations or to buy a new car. The various benefits of savings to the depositor are still only one side of the coin. The other side demonstrates the contributions that the savings of millions of people make to the community, state, and nation. Depositors' dollars are put to work in mortgage loans to build new and better homes. They help to eliminate slum areas. Depositors' dollars improve factory buildings so that they may produce more and better goods at lower prices. They are put to work in state and municipal securities to improve roads, to build bridges, to harness floods, to create parks and playgrounds. Depositors' dollars help to build hospitals and schools. Perhaps most important of all, A large percentage of the assets of every savings bank are invested in United States bonds. These dollars are put to work to build an arsenal of strength, which is our surest safeguard in peace or war. Each depositor in a savings bank not only safeguards his own future, but helps his government to provide a richer, a finer, and a safer America for us all.
Well, congratulations, Tom. Nice job. We wanted a fresh approach, and you certainly gave it to us.
Well, I had a lot of help.
Oh, yes, congratulations to you, too, Miss Kimball.
Thank you.
Well, son, did doing this work give you any ideas about a job, I mean?
Yes, Dad, it did.
I was hoping you'd say that. Maybe now you realize the advertising business can be exciting after all. Well, there's a desk waiting for you at the agency, son. All you got to do is come to work.
Well, as a matter of fact, Dad, what this really sold me on is banking. I was just going to ask Mr. Nichols if there were a chance for an opening here.
Well, yes, that can be arranged. There's always a place for a bright young man with enthusiasm and the right training. In fact, if,
Well, after all, it's up to Tom. I guess that's just one desk at the agency that'll never be occupied.
Must be occupied by a woman, Mr. O'Neill. You see, while we were doing all this work and Tom was being sold on banking, I was being sold on advertising. So if Mr. Nichols doesn't mind, and if I can qualify...
Why, that's a fine idea, Miss Kimball. We'll talk it over at lunch.
the best secretary in New York, you can't do this to me.
And you can't do this to me.
I can't?
Of course not. Besides, you're forgetting about this. Remember, Mary, your future and your children's future are safe in a mutual savings bank.
Well, if you put it that way, I may think it over.